let's cut back to the support group.
This is going
All of our...
well, huh?
Oh yeah, super well. Like discussing Irene slash Iris and, you know, how we all feel about it. And I love some of the commentary that's happening here. A trial would have been better. Bitch took the coward's way out.
I hate that.
I hate that too. And when I say I love some of the commentary that's happening here, I hope that y'all know that I mean that with the utmost of sarcasm.
Yeah.
In this particular scenario, whatever. But suicide is never the coward's way out. And using that kind of dialogue automatically paints a negative picture for people that are going through that sort of intense depressive period where they are contemplating suicide. So I strongly encourage people to never use that sort of dialogue of taking suicide as the coward's way out.
I just thought of something. Number one, you're fucking right. But number two, since we're on that subject of it not being the coward's way out, you could actually say that Aunt Irene or Iris, whoever the fuck she is, hanging herself, killing herself, that's a sin. Suicide is a sin. And so she decided to make it right from her perspective by damning her soul for all eternity by taking that way out. So it is most certainly not the coward's way out, because to her, she was fully committing. So it's not necessarily just like a bodily suicide. It's a spiritual suicide as well, because to her and her people and their mentality, you're not ever going to be with God in the afterlife if you decide to take the suicide route. It's actually really more appropriate than I ever thought it would be. Wow.
Yeah.
It is. Because it's a true acknowledgement of the damage that she caused to Emily and... Did we ever get the Martha's name? I don't recall it.
Don't remember it.
Okay. Well,
I think she only had a number.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
But it's a true acknowledgement to the damage that she caused, not just to Emily and to that Martha, but to every other woman that she perpetrated these crimes against. Like, this for me it's not the coward's way out. It's a true acknowledgement of all of the dreadful, abominable, terrible things that she was part of. Is it the right answer? No, suicide is never the right answer. No, I love that. I love that dialogue, though, Scarlett, of like her acknowledge, because she is a very religious person, or was, that acknowledgement that suicide is the sort of sin that would prevent you from, having eternal peace. I think Moira is slightly sympathetic to this too. When they are going around and asking what everyone thinks about it, and Moira says, I think we're all better than the worst thing we've done. And to me, that is Moira trying to humanize Irene a little bit, or Iris, either way, trying to humanize her a bit, and also an acknowledgement of, hypothetically, there are several people in this group that are sitting in this group right now that have done terrible, awful things under Gilead and said, we did what we had to do to survive, who haven't killed themselves because they understand that they are so much more than those acts, and they have been able to find that forgiveness within themselves and their community. So I give Moira so much credit here for that.
I really liked that phrase. I've never thought of that phrase before, and I don't know, I feel like it's a good little mantra to keep in your back pocket for when you're feeling extra shitty about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good illustration of just how much further Moira is in her processing and healing.
Yeah.
Ooh,
because she's
point.
A lot further ahead than Emily too. Like,
yep.
When you really think about how long Moira's been out, obviously we don't know the rest of the people in this group, but I have a feeling, especially because we see her in a leadership role within this group until June kind of usurped it in the middle. She really has had time to process all of these emotions that she's telling them that they talking them through, not that she's telling them they should be feeling
Mm-hmm.
one way or another, but telling them that yes, you're feeling one way but someone else might feel another. That's a big thing that she keeps reiterating throughout this episode. But a lot of the words that she uses and the phrase she uses sound like she's just had more, like, obviously it's more time, but it sounds like she's also had more access to counseling, just in terms of she's been there for 4 years and therefore had 4 years more therapy than June has. You know what I mean? And 2
Right.
years more than Emily. And so she just sounds like she's doing the best she can to get everyone in their unique situations to kind of accept that everyone is in a unique situation. Like, despite them all being in that circle and being so similar, they're all so different, and their trauma is going to be so different, and their coping is going to be different, and their triggers are going to be different. And that's a lot. I think that at the end of the day, is a lot of what this show is highlighting, is that everyone's experiences are going to be different, including the aunt, including, you know, Luke, who's never been a handmaid or, you know, barely lived in Gilead at all. And he has his own trauma and his own things that he's going to have to deal with as he, you know, reunites with people that have been in it more, like June. And then you have Moira, who, you know, is a little bit more out of it, a little bit more healed, a little bit more used to Canada. And brings me to an interesting question, but I guess we should probably finish. Did you have more to say? There is another scene, huh? I'm like assuming
there's
we're
a
done
whole,
here.
there's a bunch in this.
Sorry, I will save my random thoughts for the end.
June asks Emily, or June ultimately, like, as everyone's discussing Irene and how they feel about it, June does exactly what she did in that round circle previously and says, why don't we let Emily tell us how she feels? If she wants to. And at first, like, that same feeling of, like, Emily is being cornered by June kind of came through. But then they cut to Emily's face. And did y'all notice the background of Emily's face? Oh my goodness. So behind Emily was this sort of soft architecture, and the background of her, you know, those quintessential pictures of, like, the Virgin Mother Mary with, like, the halo that comes out in the points?
Yeah.
That's exactly what was happening behind Emily.
Oh, really?
Oh, gosh.
It
was Virgin Mary, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you said? Okay, so this is how I kept seeing it, and I kept thinking, like, oh, that's Bible imagery there.
Yeah.
And then I kept thinking that I was confusing it with the Statue of Liberty, and I was like, I don't know what that means, so I'm gonna ignore that. Because it also reminded me of the Statue of Liberty.
I mean, I could totally say that, yeah.
But I thought Bible first, and then I just got
Yes!
unsure of myself, and I, for some reason, didn't save my notes, and so I don't have the last two scenes, so I don't know what I wrote about it, but I do remember seeing that thing and thinking it was the Statue of Liberty.
Yes.
So.
All right, so it's that same sort of, like, halo behind her. Like, there's, like, a soft glow, so you don't see the full halo, but you do see, as is similar with Renaissance paintings, that you see, I mean, it's not even worth quoting individual artists, because almost every single painting with the Mother Mary has, like, this halo on her and these, like, crown-like spikes that are coming out, like, that are glowing behind her head. And that's the exact same thing that you see behind Emily's head. And, like, she looks up when June says, why don't we let Emily tell her how she feels? And, like, she gasps and, like, looks upward, slightly above the camera frame. So she looks absolutely angelic in this moment. And, like, legit, like, I, like, wrote that she looks like the Holy Mother Mary. Mm-hmm. And Emily takes a breath and her eyes glisten. And you can almost feel it before she says it, that she's not going to take the path of, like, forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And it's such a beautiful juxtaposition between this visual and the words that come out of her mouth of, I feel amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm glad she's dead. And I hope I had something to do with it. So dark and so sinister, but also a full acknowledgement of the pain and misery that Iris caused her and will continue to cause her, Emily, for the remainder of her life. Like, Emily will never be free of the repercussions of Iris's actions. And I absolutely loved, like, that visual of, like, what should have been this, like, glorious moment of, like, I forgive her, and I am so sorry that she killed herself, but I know she's with the Lord. Like, that's the sort of thing you would expect to hear with that visual behind Emily. And to hear those words come out of her mouth was just so twisted and delicious.
I love it.
I did
Because
too.
it's so honest. It's so honest.
Yes.
I feel like there is, like, feeling joy over such things is like somehow like looked down on, like you're not taking the high road or something. And I just feel like taking the high road is fucking overrated as all hell sometimes. And in these situations, if you want to feel really good about this, by all means, yeah, embrace that, revel in it. So few of us get that kind of vindication. Go for it, Emily. Moira doesn't love that.
You're right. Moira doesn't love it. Like, and all the other survivors of Gilead are starting to chime in at this point. Like, if my commander were here, I'd chop off his dick and feed it to him. Like, you can feel that. Like, that's a genuine anger, and like, I can feel that in my soul because like I would have that same sort of reaction.
Right.
And one of them even says like anger is important to healing. I'm sorry, Moira says this. She's like, anger is important to healing, but you don't want to live there. And June sort of retorts that. It's like, yeah, but let us live here now. Let us just like absorb this and swim around in it until our fingers get all pruny. And then when we're sick of swimming in it, then we can get out of it. But don't blow the whistle on us while we're still dealing with Adult Swim.
Right? She makes a good point. She says, why does healing have to be the only way? Why can't we be as furious as we feel? Don't we have that right? That's my feelings exactly.
Moira is so displeased with this though. And like you can see the disgruntlement on her face, and she like pulls herself back into the chair and she like sighs inwardly and kind of like contorts herself a bit, and like you know at this moment that Moira just wants to be like, June, what the fuck are you doing? Not everyone has the same process as you, and not everyone's dealt with the same trauma as you. But June is a tsunami. And you cannot fight a tsunami. And I think that Moira understands this slightly. Because otherwise Moira would have gotten up at this point when June said, like, I'm willing to stay for anyone that wants to talk. Moira, when she closed out the hour, would have just gotten up and walked away at this point. But I think subconsciously Moira understands that there is some validity to June's process, and allowing the other victims and survivors of Gilead to have this same process, even though they don't want to live in that anger. It's okay to dip your toe in every once in a while. What did you two get out of this, though?
I'm really wondering what their relationship is going to be like after this. Like, I know that Moira is her ride or die, but I don't think that she likes this side of June.
I don't think that she knows what to do with this side of June, because I think it's the same issue that June and Luke have, and it's that they both expected someone to come back, and this is not the person they expected. She doesn't expect June to be a tsunami. She is. We know it. We know she's fueled by this vengeance, but this is a side of her that Moira just hasn't seen. And for as much as we say, like, Moira has a shared experience with her, I mean, I guess compared to Luke, she does. But as far as her experiences in Gilead, Moira was very removed from June's experiences in Gilead. Especially, like, think of the way that even when she saw her after when they first found each other, and she's trying to get her to, like, recognize that this is Moira and to follow her, and June won't stop talking about Janine, and Moira's response is like, Janine, because the last time that she saw Janine was like this flippant little girl on the side that they laughed at, and they kind of took her under her wing, but like she wasn't to be taken seriously, and she certainly wasn't like OG crew of June's friends and family. But that we know what Janine has turned into, and I feel like there's just a big disconnect with them right now. And I do think that, I hope, and I'd like to think that they will figure it out eventually, but I just think right now she's having the same problem that Luke is, that they have an idea of who was going to come back and who was on that boat, and now they're realizing who is actually on that boat and who is actually here with them, and June is just a different person. And as much as June's going to have to figure out what to do with herself in Canada and how to get through day to day, Luke and Moira are going to have to learn who she is as she figures it out too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're spot on.
Agreed. On the nosy.
Is that the end of this episode now?
No.
Mm-mm.
Jesus
There's one
Christ,
more
I swear to God, I'm like, I really don't have any notes to go off of. I'm like, this gotta surely be done.
So Marjorie, do you want to do the last scene?
Please God, no, because I am quite sure I didn't see it.